This will be for the bearing removal on a 2003 Dodge Durango. I've already taken off the brake caliper here, of course, which is held on by just the two bolts here going through the back side right here into the caliper assembly. I've already taken the axle nut off here along with the keeper and stuff in there also. On this back here on the back side, you can see the back side. See if I can get my finger in there so I can actually see it. Okay, right here. And there's actually three of them. There's three bolts essentially on the back side of the unit here. And here's number 2 right in here, and then of course there's an opposing one there. And the bearings are actually down inside of this particular area right here. So you've got to go ahead and pull this entire hub assembly off of here. Like I said, but in order to do that, you just need to get those bolts off the back side right here. Like I say, the heads are actually on the other side here. They're 9/16 on this 2003. So I'm going to back those out. I did see in another video online that this is tapered. Now the other guy kind of pounded it out, but what I'm going to try in this scenario is to actually use an actual gear puller like this to see if I can get up on the side of the hub here and back the thing off with using that as my center point there to pull it forward off of there. But other than that, it shouldn't be too difficult. So as I move along here, I'll show you the progress. Okay, got all the bolts out on the back side here. You should be able to see the holes where they came out here, up here, and of course there's the opposing third one down there. Again, in lieu of beating the thing, I'm not going to do that. I'm sure the puller will probably get it, and if it's a problem, I'll tell you. Stating the obvious, you know, I've got a jack on it. I probably should have some jack stands and stuff too, but I don't. But again, you know, if you're working on cars, you should know how to prop up and how to be safe. So anyhow, next thing is to see if I can get this thing yanked off with the wheel puller. Okay, we're hooked up. And as you can see here, I've got her put on there, and I understand why it was probably beat off at this point now, because the shaft essentially goes in, just peels back inside there into the cavity back here, and of course it is a 4-wheel drive, so it's pushing it back into the front differential. So I may have to think of this a little bit more, maybe to break it loose. I think I might just put the nut back on here to stop its travel from going back in, to see if I can go ahead and pull it that way. I'm going to try that first. Okay, got the nut on there. Let's see what happens here. We're going to push that back. So our only goal here really is just pop that thing loose so we can get it popped off loose, and then it should travel right off of there. So all we need to do is break it. And right now I'm snug, so we're going to go ahead, once I find the correct size socket here, we're going to see if we can break her off of there. Alrighty, here she goes. Okay, I've done a few cranks, haven't noticed anything. I think the physics of this is I'm still essentially just binding these two here. So what I'm going to do is, I guess I'll take the other route. We'll try and take a tap on this to see if I can get it to loosen up on the back. Just yeah, see if we can get her to loosen up and come off. Okay, I did get it. Pounding, of course, didn't do jack, but what I had done, and I'll clean this up a little bit on the edges, but it doesn't really seal. You can see a bunch of rust down in here where it sat in. This is the axle portion. This is the actual hub piece to replace here. So the bearings are bad inside there. You see a lot of rust and junk. So what I'll probably do is use a little, there's a bunch of other debris in here too. I'm probably going to go ahead and use some 1000 grit sandpaper and stuff and kind of clean that up. Make sure it's cleaned up really good so it'll press back in. But yeah, that back side was tapered, and here's how I did it rather than doing all the pounding like mad on it. I went and got myself my cold chisel. I sharpened her up a little bit. Let me get back a little more. Sharpened her up a little bit on the tip. Went in here along the edge, was just about the easiest way to do that, to go ahead and just started tapping it so I could loosen it up out of it. I probably should have used a little anti-seize or the, you know, a little WD or something on there to get that to break loose. Probably would have been a little bit easier, but it wasn't too bad. Took me all a couple minutes of, you know, a BFH, a few pounds here and there around the edges, and of course you have to go all the way around so you don't bind it. But then she popped off pretty easy. So now once the new one comes in, slide in, bolt in the 3 bolts through the back side, torque them down. Again, every guy's best tool, of course, is this bad boy here. You know, nice big breaker bar sure makes life a lot easier for disassembly and reassembly, but the breaker bar was actually, there's enough room to access from the back to get those tightened up. But check for your torque specifications for your particular vehicle. But other than that, that's pretty much it, and I'll keep on once I get the new one in. Thanks, bye. Okay, we got the pretty new hub. Very simply, it just slides in over the axle there. As you can see, it's like I said before, it's tapered there. You can see the taper in the where the inserts. I did go ahead and clean up this inside here a little bit with some sandpaper, just real lightly. Obviously, they will want the press fit for a reason. Just slide it in on your shaft here. That's simple. And then torque to the specifications on the back side to put your bolts back in here. And I'm going to go ahead and use a little thread lock too. And I'm using the blue thread locker here on the back of that. So yeah, then suck it into place, and pretty simple just to put it all back together. You know, putting your brakes back on, so on and so forth. And of course there's the old one that was shot, causing a lot of looseness in the front end, so they couldn't even do an alignment on it. So that's it, pretty simple.